Hi, I'm Tina Swithin, author of Divorcing a Narcissist and founder of One Mom's Battle. And today I wanted to talk to you about a topic that we've covered before, but a little bit different of an angle. And that is your attorney. It is one of the most common phone calls I get in my coaching practice, is discord with attorneys and trying to navigate that realm. Finding an attorney who truly understands what you're up against. Your attorney is your voice and your advocate in the courtroom. So, and this battle against a narcissist to protect your children is one of the most draining, tiring, debilitating battles that you'll ever fight in your life. And so if you have an attorney who doesn't truly understand what you're up against, or if you find yourself having to battle your own attorney to understand what you're dealing with, you simply don't have that extra energy to battle someone on your own team. And that's why it is so important to make sure you are aligned with the right person. When you're interviewing an attorney, you want to be very clear right out of the gate. What I hear from a lot of people is that attorneys will deliver a pretty big sales pitch, and then once you get out of the gate running, they kind of tend to backtrack. Oh, I don't know that we can get legal custody or X, Y, and Z. That's a red flag. What your attorney's words and actions should always be in alignment. There is a whole section in my book called Divorcing a Narcissist, Advice from the Battlefield. And it gives questions to ask your attorney when you're first interviewing them. But, one of the things, ask them, have you ever won a case based on emotional abuse? Or, what has been your experience in front of my judge as it relates to domestic violence? Somebody who is truly all about control and winning and not putting the kids first. How does that, you want to know what their rapport is like with the judge that your case is in front of, because that's very important. I've talked to a lot of people where their attorney didn't tell them that the judge hates them or that there's whatever. If you're in doubt, after you've interviewed your attorney, ask them, do you have a court date coming up where you are in front of this specific judge? Because I'd like to just come sit in the courtroom. I won't say a word. I'll stay in the background, but I would like to desensitize myself to the court process. I would like to understand more about it. I'd love to see you kind of in action. And, if you're asked, why are you there by a bailiff or a judge, just say, I have an interest in family court, and today I'm just here to observe. And that's the truth. So really kind of trying to get behind the scenes and understand how your attorney works, how long it normally takes them to return emails or phone calls, if they have a paralegal who is their point person that you should be going through. But there are some really important things for you to remember. And number one, your attorney is not your therapist. That is something that I find a lot of people expect their attorneys to be their emotional support system. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of attorneys are highly narcissistic themselves. If they are not completely diagnosable, they at least are pretty high up on the spectrum of narcissistic traits. And therefore, you have to take what you know about narcissistic personality disorder and almost do kind of a reverse psychology. Emotions would make somebody who is higher on the narcissistic scale very uncomfortable. And so if you are going to your attorney and expecting them to be your support system, that's not their job. Their job is to fight for you in the courtroom. And so keeping yourself centered and non-emotional and strategic is absolutely important. They're also not your friend. To be perfectly blunt, most of the time, you are just a case to them. A lot of them suffer from compassion fatigue. And so they have to put up boundaries to prevent themselves from getting emotionally attached to cases or clients. And that's a protection mechanism. And while it's not me, I do get why they need to do it. I sit in courtrooms a lot. It can really eat at you if you don't have good boundaries. And so for them on a professional level, they need to have those boundaries. And it's important to keep those things in mind when you are dealing with an attorney. I think a lot of people, when I tell people that it's important for your attorney to understand cluster B personality disorders, they take that wrong. A lot of people want their attorney to march into the courtroom and label their ex as a cluster B, a narcissist, a sociopath, a borderline, and that's not in your best interest. They are not qualified to make that diagnosis, nor should they. And so the reason your attorney needs to know all about narcissistic personality disorder is so they can help you be strategic and navigate behind the scenes. And that's with communication, that's with, strategically pushing someone's buttons to get their mask to fall. Because the narcissist, their mask is usually on so firm that if you are emotional, that mask is going to stay on because they're getting what they want and what they need. If you are strategic about how to push their buttons, or if your attorney is strategic about how to push their buttons to get their true colors to show, that's, a very wise angle. And so your attorney should understand cluster B disorders so they can help you to show patterns of behavior, to properly present your case in court, and how these issues are affecting your children, which is most of the time what the court wants to see or cares about. If you have a non-corrupt judge that does care about the kid's best interest. There's actually an attorney in Los Angeles who I often refer people to, and not only is he an attorney, but he also has his degree in psychology. And, even with his knowledge of the narcissist, he will be the first to tell you that doesn't carry over into the courtroom in presenting your case unless there's a diagnosis. But it's very hard to get a diagnosis of cluster B. And even if you do get one, which isn't that common, the disconnect is that the courts do not understand what that disorder means for your children. So say you have a diagnosis that says he's narcissistic personality disorder, and it's an actual diagnosis, not just that he has high traits. All the judge hears all the judge sees when he reads that diagnosis is the person's a jerk, he has a big ego or she has a big ego, likes to take selfies. There's no research that shows how cluster B individuals affect children or co-parenting situations. And so now you're stuck holding a piece of paper and have a diagnosis that really doesn't help you in court. An attorney who truly understands what you're up against will instead focus on, once again, patterns of behavior that affect your kids, how this person is incapable of co-parenting, that it's about winning and control and not what's in the best interests of the children. People put so much weight into that diagnosis or their attorney running into court and pointing the finger when that actually doesn't really help you at all. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to hear because we want so badly to put a label on it and explain, but most of the time, what I see in family court is that it doesn't matter. An attorney who does understand what you're up against and who can help you to navigate behind the scenes with communication is very important, because, if they get it, they're not going to be pressing you to look reasonable. They do to some extent for strategy purposes, but overall, they're going to understand why you have boundaries in place and that they need to be enforced. They're also going to understand that mediating with this type of person is really pointless. Unfortunately, it's required in most states before you get into the courtroom, but it gives you practice presenting your case to a neutral third party. But do we have hope that the narcissist is actually going to settle or be reasonable in mediation? No. That's not realistic. And a skilled attorney who gets it will understand that and knows that you don't spend hours and run up a legal bill trying to get the narcissist to negotiate, because in two parties, when both are relatively healthy, there's going to be give and take. And if you give an inch, they're not going to run 15 miles, which is what the narcissist will do. And for those reasons, it is important to have an attorney who understands that mediation, yes, you do the required dose of that, but beyond that, it's better to put it in front of the court and try to hold the narcissist accountable, and to not spend hours and hours negotiating with the devil. So I hope some of these tips have been helpful for you in your case. Please make sure you're subscribed to our One Mom's Battle YouTube channel, where we share tips and strategies on protecting your children in high conflict custody battles. And you can also look at our resources. I have multiple books for both adults, and I have a children's book out on Amazon. You can just search for Tina Swithin. And also One Mom's Battle is our resource page where you can find support for your battle. Thank you, and I'm sending you positive thoughts and prayers on your journey.